All right, you're live. Yes, so much easier at the beach. Okay, so we are out here today. See how we can stand everything up here. Get you guys some scenery. Yeah, how's that? Put a little bit more. I think I'm gonna move my chair over a little bit. So while we're waiting for folks to hop on, I'm gonna switch around a little bit. And I think I'm gonna get the bikini popping a little bit. It's not super sunny. It's like partially cloudy, so it means it's not too hot, which is great because it's been really hot lately. You've heard me talking about that. If you've been checking me out, you've been hearing that. Bear with me for a second while I move some things around here. Just a little bit. Hey everybody, I see you're jumping on. Let me just change my setup ever so slightly. Cool. Cool. How's that? Yeah. Nice. I'm working it out. The home stream was not the move, right? I want those chairs in the background to be out of here though. It's my production quality. Hang on. I'm gonna go move the chairs. I'll be right back. Don't you go anywhere because I have a lot to say today. I want this out of my shot. All right. Well, let's see. Well, all right, let me get started first. Hey. What's up, everybody? How are you? Where are you guys? So as you can see, I'm out here at the beach. And as you can also see, there's really nobody here. So I'm doing like a twofer. I got myself out, got the boy out, we got a dog. We borrowed a dog to bring with us today. To get out. Thank you very much. Yeah, the background's pretty dope, right? So here I am to talk about, I want to talk about the show #BlackAF. You know what the AF stands for, right? On Netflix. I hope you guys comment, and I'm just really curious to hear what you guys think about it. I will absolutely tell you what I think about it. I've watched quite a number of reviews on YouTube to see what, I don't know if I could call it the general consensus, but at least what I found on YouTube, what people are saying. And I find it fascinating that there's been such an immediate, very strong response one way or the other, right? People tend to find this to be a very polarizing show. So we'll get into that in a minute. First of all, I want to qualify what I'm saying by giving you my perspective, like a little bit about me, in terms of like, it's sort of like a backdrop of how I'm going to approach looking at the show. So I'm a black woman. I'm not a black woman, like I'm not a dark-skinned black woman. I bring that up because that's definitely a theme about what people have been saying about the show. However, both my parents are black, identify as black. My mom's really fair-skinned, but I think if you see her, to me, she's obviously a black woman. I don't know if she's ever been confused with being white. My dad is a brown skin, not dark chocolate, but like milk chocolate kind of brown. My mother's side of the family is from, well, I'll just tell you, so my grandmother was also very fair with green eyes. She could have passed for white, probably. I don't know that she ever did, or certainly that she didn't try to. Her parents were, my great-grandmother was also very, very fair with blue eyes, and my great-grandfather was dark, like black dark. And they were from South Carolina. And then they moved around to Savannah, Georgia, and eventually moved up, the migration up to Chicago, where my grandmother was born in Savannah, my mother was born in Chicago. So there's that side of the family. My great-grandmother, who had the blue eyes and very light hair and looked white, that side of the family was the whole plantation thing, and, mixed with the slave owner, all that stuff. So that explains a lot of that. On my father's side, his people are from Virginia, like Richmond, Virginia area. And he and his sister are both brown skinned, kind of keen features, like sharp nose, whatever, sort of the wavy hair thing. His parents, my grandparents, were also kind of like brownish, not really dark, but brown for sure. Anyway, so that's a little bit about my background in terms of the color issue, because we are definitely going to talk about color. I'm going to disrobe now, you guys, because although I like the cover up, I like feeling a little bit more covered. It is hot, so here we go. This is for the people who like the bikinis. Try to give a little something for everybody. Okay, so that's that aspect of my, the lens through which I view the show in terms of like the color aspect. There's also, so I grew up pretty privileged, right? My parents divorced when I was really young. Hey Hugh, how you doing? It's a little beach for you. I grew up with a single mom. My parents divorced when I was young. So my mother raised me in San Francisco, but I traveled back to Washington, D.C., where I was born, every summer to see my father and his side of the family. My mom made sure that there was a connection there. And my father's side was more, so my mother's side, so much. Let me stick with San Francisco for a little bit longer. And I'm telling you guys just to give you the context of how I'm looking at the show. This all has a reason. Hey, James, I'm building it all up because I think it's important to consider ourselves when we are critiquing something that has the type of cultural relevance and significance as a show as Black as fuck, right? Yeah, Black AF, my bad, whatever. So, you know, I had a lot of privileges growing up, went to private schools, almost exclusively, I think, yeah, private schools. My parents are both educated people, you know, I mean, I come from a line of a certain type of Black family, I guess you would say, very, very sort of middle class, maybe even upper middle class. I don't know. I mean, where do you make that divide? I'm not sure. I was definitely always one of like a handful maybe of Black girls in my class, mostly very privileged white kids that I went to school with. And my friends were either the white kids themselves or like some, I don't want to say imported Black kids, but you know, my family always had Black friends for sure. That's who they hung out with, were like me. And I started college at Berkeley, UC Berkeley. Hey, Allie, what's up, girl? What's up? Hey, Aliyah, oh, cool, everybody's checking in. So we're about to talk about this Black as fuck show. Let me just say, I love this show, and I'm gonna tell you why, though. I'm giving you my background so you can hear, those of you who don't. So I didn't grow up with any kind of hood experience. I didn't, hola, saying hi to everybody. I didn't grow up hearing people like, I mean, it's gonna sound bad, but I didn't hear like a lot of Black slang and everything. I kind of did. Let me just cut to so I transferred to Spelman College as a junior, right? And that was my first experience being around that many Black people like me. I'd been around other Black folks here and there, whatever. Like I said, a couple friends in school, a couple here, a couple there. But Spelman Morehouse was like, oh my God, the Red Sea parted and there were all these beautiful people. And I had a bit of culture shock at first, right? Because it was just a very new experience for me to be around that many people like me. So my mom and dad, as I said, divorced when I was really young. They were, you know, my mom was single for a long time, so I probably was 14. And my stepfather's a dentist. And so then I got exposed to the whole like doctor's kid scenes and Jack and Jill and all that type of stuff. And for those of you who don't know, that's very middle class Black kind of the social circles that we run in, right? And so that's my background on like that aspect of Black America. You know, I did not have any experience with the hood. I didn't talk like the hood kids. In fact, when I went back to DC during the summers, the people, like I stayed with my grandparents because my dad was working during the day. So my grandparents' block, DC now, it's like all gentrified, and you know, the house that they lived in sold for like crazy money. And it's changed, but at the time it was just all Black families, like regular people. And I used to get teased for being what they called piss colored and talking white, and all day they wanted to play with my hair because I thought I had good hair. So I had all those experiences. But interestingly, so there was that side. But when I went back to San Francisco to my little private school, I was the Black girl. So I was representing the Blackness there, even though I wasn't like dark Black and didn't talk like with a Black accent. You know what I'm saying? Those kinds of things. I didn't talk Black. So I kind of straddled this thing for a long time. So that's how I'm coming to this show. I'm gonna give you the end first and tell you, like I already said, I think the show is genius. I think it's brilliant. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And I think it's very ambitious of him to be tackling a bunch of all different kinds of issues. In 8 episodes, he covers a lot of ground. I'll give you an example, and we can go into like the details of this. I'm just kind of like, there's so much I want to talk about right now. But for example, he talks about, in the very first episode, if you haven't seen it, I really, really recommend that you watch this show. Watch all 8 episodes. I'll tell you, I saw some people on YouTube who were like trashing it, going, well, I haven't even, one girl's like, I haven't even watched it, but I just think it's like this. And I'm like, based upon what other people said, and I'm like, how can you comment when you haven't even watched it? And no disrespect, but interestingly, and she was commenting about like the color stuff, whatever, where are the dark-skinned people? But this was a young lady who was like, I feel like medium brown complexion, not really dark brown, and definitely not, I mean, I'm tan now, but not like super fair. And she had on what was obviously like a very blonde, I don't know if it was a wig or a weave, I don't know, but it was blonde, like long blonde hair. And I was like, okay, I thought that was very interesting, the representation of black people, when I'm like, girl, look at you. And she didn't see the show. So first of all, watch the show. If you haven't seen it, watch the show. I will be doing some spoilers. Sorry, not to like give away the plot, but just to talk about the different aspects of it. Okay, so first episode, so for those of you who don't know, this show is based I think more than loosely based upon Kenya Barris, who is the creator, one of the writers, and also stars in the show as himself, as the dad in this family. So it's him, his wife, and their 6 kids, right? Which is exactly what his real life is like. I believe now he's divorced from his wife, recently divorced. Hey everybody, hola Ron. But that's what it's about. And it's about just my take on it is it's sort of like showing us the real raw, good, bad, ugly, dysfunctional stuff that they deal with. And in the very first episode, one of the things that comes out is he's questioning how he appears, how he comes across to other people, including the white people that he works with, because again, this is a black executive in Hollywood. Ain't a whole lot, I mean, there are way more black executives now than there used to be, but make no mistake, the people who are still controlling Hollywood for the most part are the white folks. And so here's a black man who's risen really, really high. And by the way, he also, in real life, this is also the creator of Blackish. There's spin-off shows, Mixedish and Grownish, which I've not seen, so I can't comment on them. So he's considering, like, you know, because he wears like these tracksuits and gold chains and he drives like a flashy kind of car, wow, am I like, he even says, am I a coon? You know, am I like a caricature of a black person because I like this stuff and because now I have money enough to get it? So off the bat, he's showing you kind of like the life that he's living in. So that's again, sort of what that's about. And throughout the different episodes, he's questioning, either he or the different characters are questioning these different aspects I see about perhaps what it means to be black, whatever. And by the way, the show is shot through the lens of his, I don't know if it's old, I think it's, the second oldest daughter, who is doing this as like a documentary for an application to get into film school. So that's who's like kind of narrates it. And so, for example, you see a scene about whatever it is, some family situation or something, interaction between husband and wife, family, you know, some work stuff, whatever. And then they'll cut to like a particular character's analysis about that scene, or like giving you thoughts about how they felt, what was going down. So I think it's interesting the way it was done. You know, I think it keeps the viewer very engaged. I was riveted, frankly. And oh my gosh, there's just so much. I actually wrote some things down at home and I forgot the notes, okay, because I was busy getting a boy and a dog and water ready for the beach. But anyway, so I like the fact, I tell you this, I think the show is bold in that he is taking all these things on head first. He's holding nothing back as far as I can tell, including language. Yes, there's cussing, including from the kids, parents at the kids between each other. Hey. I'm saying hi to somebody. Hey, JL, looks like. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. He weaves in historical facts to teach us, all of us, black, white, blue, anybody, Asian, anybody, about some aspects of history that black people have had to deal with, contend with. In the first episode, he reveals what's referred to as peacocking. Again, talking about him wearing these certain kind of clothes, very expensive designer. He's not like a flashy, like dressed up guy. He's really, really very casual and like sweatsuits and stuff all the time. But it's expensive stuff he's wearing. Like apparently one of them, the wife said, the $2,000 sweatsuit, you know. And so, but he talks about peacocking. It's like and all relating from slavery, the effects and psychological trauma that Black people still are dealing with from slavery, which I happen to think is a very real thing. So, for example, peacocking, which he brings up. Peacocking was during slavery. Slave owners would choose some of their slaves to get really dressed up in the beautiful clothes and then take them out. It's like their Sunday best. They'd go to church or just be kind of paraded around to show, oh, look at my chattel, my property, look how nice they look. And it was when, I guess, Black people during that time, that's when they began to feel a source of pride in looking, they didn't have clothes, right? They were in rags and stuff normally. But this was a chance they had, the one chance to feel a little bit of dignity in these clothes. And so the thought or the theory is that is where the tradition of getting really dressed up came from and feeling a sense of pride. And then, turning into like being flashy, and how we like to pop our collar, all that stuff, that's where it came from. So it's referred to as peacocking, right? Spreading your feathers out and letting everybody see how awesome you are. So off the bat, not only is he educating us about that, but he's questioning whether or not he's fallen prey to being a peacock before the white man, right? He questions that, and he questions it openly in front of his wife, in front of his Jewish assistant, who he totally is bossing around all the time. But to question all of this, here's this man who's achieved the status that it's very hard to get to in Hollywood for anybody, let alone a brother from the hood. By the way, he's from Inglewood, California, which is it's not a necessarily bad area, but it's definitely not Beverly Hills, right? So anyway, so it goes from that. Let me get into the critique without going through all the particular things. So the critiques that I have heard are, number one, and by far the most overwhelming critique that I've heard is that there are either none or no dark-skinned Black people in the show. I loved it too, Allison. I was like, I can't wait for season 2, 3, 4. I think it's fantastic. But there's not enough dark-skinned people in the show. And I primarily hear this critique coming from dark-skinned Black people. Now, I'm not a dark-skinned Black person, so I have not had the experience that I know many dark-skinned Black people have. My friends, my family, I get that. He did, right? Girl, thank you. Because people, I'm like, how do you not love this show? This is brilliant stuff he's doing. So the colorism thing. First of all, remember, this is the depiction of his own family. His wife or ex-wife, whatever she is, in real life is a biracial woman who you can look her up online. Her name is Raina, R-A-I-N-A, I think Edwards Barris, right? I think sometimes it's darker, but I mean, she's not obviously a sister in the way, I mean, to me, I think she looks like a Black woman, but she's not a dark-skinned, more traditionally looking Black person. I already have a problem with that, saying even traditionally looking, because I feel like what's traditionally looking Black? We've had light-skinned Black people since time began, basically. I mean, you're going to talk about Africa and, dark-skinned people in Africa. Yeah, but there's also Northern Africa, people who are more in my thoughts here, because I feel like there's so much I want to say. So that's one of the critiques. There's not enough dark-skinned Black people. And it's about money-making Black people in Hollywood and dealing with the climate with his family. Right. So number one, he's reflecting what his actual family looks like, is my understanding. And it's easy to Google him online. You see his actual family. That's what they look like, pretty much. So I have zero problem with that. I also don't feel like he has to just throw in a dark-skinned Black person gratuitously. Absolutely, if there's a character, and frankly, I'm sure that there will be some people in the show that come up eventually, just like in every other show. I believe there's dark-skinned Black people in Blackish and whatever. Girls Trip. I mean, give the man a chance, right? He's getting through the door. He got a huge deal with Netflix. Let him get some momentum. Like I said, he's tackling a whole bunch of issues. You can be sure if he's already from the gate talking about peacocking and what's it called? It's not epigenerational. I forget the word he uses. First of all, he's brilliant. His vocabulary, if you listen to actual interviews with him, like the actual man, Kenya Barris, he's fucking brilliant. And so I love him. I think he's fantastic. I have mad respect for him. But he's giving us so much knowledge, so much information. He's provoking us. He's poking us in places where he knows it's going to be uncomfortable. And he's brave enough to use himself to do it, right? Most people, I think, wouldn't be willing to bear themselves, like their family situations, the difficulties he's had with, he recognizes he's kind of an absentee father. I mean, he's there, but he's very he's checked out kind of in some ways emotionally from his kid for them. And for sure, they're provided for in lavish style. And I feel like, okay, I have people in my family who are like that, men who've done great jobs providing, but the kids are like, yeah, but you weren't there to hug me and all that kind of stuff. Why do non-dark-skinned blacks throw the fact that they're not dark-skinned? Does it matter? Well, listen, I have the same question about why do dark-skinned people, like, we're black, right? I don't feel like my experience is so much different from a dark-skinned black person from the perspective of understanding racism and understanding things that have been targeted against me because I'm black, even if I may not have the darkest skin. And so I frankly, I don't know if I want to say I was shocked at that commentary about colorism. I do feel like it's going to make me think about it more from the perspective that these people are talking about, that, you know, what it's like to feel the brunt of, you know, having dark skin and having people automatically feel like that's my family. I have friends who are very dark skinned, and we've talked about it. I've talked about it with people in my family before, but I guess I'm just shocked that dark skinned black people are coming at him so hard because of this issue. I think it's a non-issue, frankly. This is a man telling the story of his family, okay? And we're just getting started in it. So there's that. We can come back to that if you guys want to comment. Okay, Hugh, thank you. I'll take a look at that. So there's that. Then I'm hearing people saying, oh, it's not relatable. It's totally tone deaf. You know, there aren't really any families like this. And so how can we even relate to him? He's so rich. It's like, and he's complaining about his problems, but here's this rich guy. Critique misses the mark too, because number one, there are black families like that, right? That's like when the Cosby Show came out, people were like, oh, there's no shows like that. And I was like, that's who my friends are. That's exactly who I relate to. I related to the Cosbys like 100%. Like I said, my mom married a dentist. We were in that whole doctor's crew, a bunch of professionals, my girlfriend's mom. I mean, so it was not far-fetched at all for me. In fact, when I heard people talking about, well, it's just like a fantasy depiction of a black family, a very small segment of the population that can relate to that, or that is aware, maybe not can relate, but that is aware of that. But the Cosby Show was a huge hit because it wasn't just talking about, oh, we're a professional black family and that's all there was to talk about. No, they were talking about issues of, you know, kids growing up and you know, just family stuff. That's exactly what blackAF is doing. He's talking about what it's like to be in the game, our kind of people. Okay, thank you, Hugh. I'll check that out. You guys, if you're not noticing these comments, do take a look at some of the comments that are being dropped because there's some more interesting information in there too. To me, the show is not just a rich guy talking about, oh, poor me, I'm a rich guy. Not at all. He is going so much more in depth. Maybe he's doing it more subtly than people need. Maybe some people need things to be in your face. But from what I can tell, he's educating us. Like I said, he's talking about peacocking. He talks about the adultification of black girls. He talks about the trauma, the residual trauma from slavery that we all are caught up in, about wondering, you know, next to a white person, am I okay? Am I black enough? Can I still be white enough to fit in the room? Could I please add my Cash App to descriptions? Oh, thank you. Yeah, my Cash App, just for the record, you guys, real quick, is if you look in the description box, I don't think it's there yet, I'm not sure. Yeah, live stream, it can't be there yet, I'll put it afterwards. But if you look down, if you scroll down after the video, you see like some suggested videos, I think, and then there's like a description box of like, maybe who I'm interviewing or where I am or whatever, and I do have a Cash App that's in there, so thank you very much. He even says in the show, like, for example, the issue of money. Money doesn't solve all his problems. He's hugely questioning who he is as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a black man in this white world, as a writer. The Black Larry David, right? Curb Your Enthusiasm was a brilliant show. I love that one too. I do have PayPal too. Yes, so listen, I'll put all that stuff in the description box. I have no idea how to do it now, but if you look at other videos, just for the record, there's PayPal. And just since you guys are asking about this stuff, there's also this feature called Super Chat that you can do on live streams. I think it's enabled right now. I don't know. I'm sorry if it's not hooked up right. I'm really not the tech wizard type of person, but feel free to check that stuff out afterwards. And I'll even do this, you guys. When I finish the live stream, I'll go to my community link. If you go to my page, I can add it to scroll during my lives. I can. Okay, I don't know how to do that, and I don't want to try to mess with that right now. But I will tell you that if you go to the community tab on my YouTube page, I will put a link in there as well for Cash App, PayPal. And like I said, there's something about Super Chat, but like if I press this button, I don't know what's gonna happen, so let me not do that. Okay, wait, but so Black Larry David, yes. So apparently he actually consulted with Larry David. If you don't know who Larry David is, he's a Jewish guy who, it was like partners with Seinfeld. The Seinfeld show was huge, which was very, very Jewish, right? It was very much a Jewish show about a lot of their experiences. And then Larry David did his own show, spin-off called Curb Your Enthusiasm, where he was just like kind of mocking his own very Jewish, very, in some ways, very out of touch experience with the entertainment industry, TV specifically, you know, his quirky relationship with his wife, his friend and his crazy wife, just all that kind of stuff. I thought it was oh, look at that, Super Chat. Thank you, man. Okay, so he's letting us know this is possible. Thank you so much for that donation. I really, really appreciate that. Really sweet of you. So codes. Similar in style, a little bit satirical, making fun of oneself, all that kind of stuff. Also, I thought a really, really great show. And so Kenya definitely has elements of Curb Your Enthusiasm in this show. But he's doing it from, you know, so he's 45. He's not like a young rapper type guy, not that young demographic. And he's also not so old. He's way out of touch. But he's like an educated, like, you know, college educated Black man who's worked his way up through the ranks in Hollywood. And now like had a massive hit with the show Blackish and the spin-offs, and is now showing us, okay, here's Blackish with the wheels off, right? This is how I really talk. I say fuck all the time. I talk shit to my kids sometimes. He says dude a lot. One of the critiques I read or I watched on YouTube says, oh, he says dude too much. So I'm like, okay, maybe he could say something besides dude. But really, is that like the you guys? So I don't know if you guys are black or white or blue watching, but frankly, sometimes I get tired of Black people and their never-ending criticisms of each other or of the white person's doing this to me and all that. And it's like, and honestly, that's one of the reasons I like being here in the DR. And I know there's racial issues and color issues here too, but it's not that same old drag on forever. Everything's a racial problem. I just can't. I really can't. I have to have bandwidth for other stuff. So that's why I felt like a lot of the commentary on the show, the negative commentary at least, was just so flat, so like clang. It just hit that note of, you guys are totally missing what he's trying to do. He's exposing us to real life tension that happens between husbands and wives, especially when apparently you're on the brink of divorce. And that may come up in the show. I don't know if he's going to cover that, but absolutely you can see the tension between them. And so, you know, so he's risen up and become this super successful producer. His wife is no slouch at all. She's an anesthesiologist in real life. On this show, blackAF, she plays a former corporate lawyer. And I say former because the storyline goes, and apparently same with real life, is that in having their 6th child, she developed preeclampsia. And the baby came really early, and they weren't sure if the baby was going to make it or if she was going to make it. And so then she took time off from work. It's now been, according to the show, several years since she's worked. And so she's struggling with like, wait a minute, I was like this badass corporate lawyer, you know, even had so much going. She was supporting the family while he developed his writing career, and now it's kind of flipped. Now his career's taken off, and she's kind of struggling to figure out, well, what's my place? And so she writes a book, which she also did in real life, and she's beginning to promote the book. And that becomes a source of tension. Really relatable by anyone who, you don't even have to be married. If you have ever had a relationship in your life, you know that certain dynamics come up, right? It may not be like breadwinning kind of dynamics, but just shit happens in relationships, and you have tension sometimes, and that's real. Oh my God, and he's letting us see like under the cracks of the stuff. He's not trying to make it like, oh, I've got the beautiful wife and the perfect kids and the, you know, the house in the hills. And he's like, my shit is not perfect, and this is what it's like. So that's one. He's showing the kids. He's showing that how some of them, he calls one of his boys soft, which I think is hilarious. You know, he's like, oh my God, like they're kind of weirdos. And, you know, whereas especially black fathers a lot of times, not just black, but men want their boys to be like super virile and like athletic and everything. And not all boys, not all kids are like that. And so he's kind of grappling with that and kind of hanging his head low sometimes, you know, dealing with some of the daughters like becoming more sexual as, you know, young teens and what that's like. And oh my God, why is she in a bikini on Instagram and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's really nice that he's letting us see all of the sort of common dysfunction, the foibles, the missteps, all that type stuff. What else was there? Help me out, you guys who've seen the show. The marriage, the family, I told you the work element. Now, here's one comment that I did hear, a critique, and I am curious about this one. And that has to do with the writers on the actual show, blackAF, and the writers on the show the writers that are depicted in the show. That is to say that there are a pretty significant number, supposedly, of white writers on the show. And what I'm concerned more about is the actual, like, real life writers, if there's a lot of them. Now, that being said, I know a little something about Hollywood, right? That's my stomping ground a little bit. I'm not fully in it right now, obviously, but still have a lot of contacts there. You don't just get to, so Netflix, Warner Brothers, Sony, all those big, Disney for sure, if you get a deal, first of all, that by itself is huge. It's a tremendous achievement to get a deal to do your own show, to become a writer on someone else's show as a black person or a person of color, I'll say. And then to get your own show where you get to have, at least a certain amount of creative control to tell the story you want to tell. That's huge. To staff it the way you want to staff it is tremendous. That being said, trust and believe, these people are not giving you $1 million an episode or whatever, $100 million for, like his Netflix deal, to just people in there who were fully engaged in helping to staff the show. Absolutely. So my point is that he may not have had a choice, but to have, a certain number of white writers who had to be part of that creative team. And that's not to say that those writers aren't qualified, that they're not funny, that they don't have some particular insight into black culture that might be, real brother, thank you. You're not a fan at all? YouTube taking a bigger percentage than that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So thank you so much for that. I just got a super chat, a donation. I appreciate that. Yes, YouTube takes a huge chunk out of super chats. That's true. So if you want to send a donation, thank you. It's really generous, $9.99. I appreciate that. But YouTube will take for them. Thank you very much. But damn. So yeah, if you want to send something where I am actually getting more of it to support, my time and whatever to go into doing this, sending it to Cash App or PayPal is a better option. So thank you for pointing that out, real brother. I appreciate you for that and for the donation, of course. But you guys, Hollywood, we're not there yet, where they're just giving, if it's a white-funded company, production like Netflix, obviously is not black owned. Reed Hastings, I believe, is the owner, or the founder anyway. There's a lot of creative control, but I don't know for sure that Kenya Barris was able to make all of those staffing decisions on his own. We'll see. Would I like to see more black writers on the show? Sure, why not? That's just a benefit for the people who are having the employment opportunity. It's potentially a benefit for the viewers who are getting to see more of like what black people are thinking about and how we're full of this television show. I don't know. So that's one critique that I'll be like, okay, I'll reserve a little bit of judgment on that one. They might have a point there, right? If he has the power to actually execute that. That's the part we don't know. But as far as like the content of the show itself, I don't have any problem. He shows his family coming over for a cookout at one point, and they go through, and one of the people critiquing said this, oh, it's so offensive that he was like taking art off the walls and hiding stuff as though they're like a bunch of goons who are gonna come over and steal his stuff. But that was his point. It's like, my family's from the hood. His character is saying, my family's from the hood. Apparently they are in real life. And so there may not be an appreciation for like his, $20,000 painting on them. If he's wearing a $2,000 tracksuit, $20,000 painting is no deal. Speaking of the painting, how many of you are catching things like he's introducing us to artists like Knowledge Bennett? In one of the episodes where he talks about, he's got this big, beautiful painting that's all black with like some silvery white flecks in it, and he goes on and on trying to explain to different people what this painting represents. It's a black man, the struggle against the white people. It's kind of comically talking about that. But ultimately, well, first of all, I thought the painting was beautiful from the first time they showed it. It's gorgeous. But then I'd not heard of, Tregua, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the love. I really appreciate that. Another donation. Thank you so, so much. I love the fact that he's exposing us to now, like, I know of this guy named Knowledge Bennett, and I went on Google and looked him up and got to see some of his artwork. He also has this big, funky, I don't know if it's like a lithograph or whatever, but another piece of art of Eazy-E. I love Eazy. I actually knew Eazy-E back in the day when I was party girl back in LA. That's a story I'll tell one day. Had so much fun. Eazy-E, Eric is his name, right? Eric Wright, was very cool, very smart. I felt so sad when, he met his demise and the whole thing about Suge, we don't know, whatever. But it was a huge waste. And he actually took me, I went with Eazy, here's a little nugget for you. I went with Eazy-E one time and he took me to Jerry Heller's house. And Jerry Heller, so if you don't know who that is, so Eazy-E, for those of you who may not know at all, was part of the phenomenal, explosive rap group back in the day called NWA, right? And they were one of the first ones talking sort of gangster rap. That's, I don't like that term, but that's how they tried to define them for a while. And he was with Dr. Dre. We all know who Dr. Dre is, and Ice Cube, and they just took over, right? It was huge. At the time, I was working for Virgin Records in Los Angeles, and so they would have different listening parties for different new artists and everything. I know I'm veering off of the Kenya Barris thing, but I'll come back in a minute. Anyway, so long story short, I got to meet Eazy-E. We became friends, and at one point he took me with him to Jerry Heller's house. Jerry Heller was their manager. And if you saw the movie Straight Outta Compton, you see Jerry Heller depicted as this greedy Jewish man who's really just trying to profit off the black guy. And Eazy gets kind of caught up in that and makes mistakes in judgment, and that affected the NWA relationship, whatever. And it's funny because when I went to Jerry Heller's house that time, he had a picture. I guess Eric had a son, maybe a baby at the time. I don't know, but it was a baby, like a little boy. I'm pretty sure it was a boy. One of those wallet-sized pictures, and he had it up on his fridge with a magnet. And he's like, oh, that's my grandson up there. And I remember thinking to myself, white man, come on. You know what I mean? He was just trying too hard. And so I never knew all about the dynamic of Eazy and Jerry and all that stuff. I met Dre also at a club, at the China Club. Allison, if you're still watching, you remember the China Club in Hollywood, girl? Remember that? So I was at Virgin Records listening party for Soul to Soul's second album release party, and I had just begun to listen to NWA, and I was like, shock, clutch the pearls, but I also loved it because the beat, of course, was dope, incredible. And I remember seeing them at this club, and this was when I think at that point they had been on the cover of LA Weekly, one of those local free newspapers that you can just pick up out of the stand on the corner kind of thing. And they had just been, featured in there. So I read about them. A girlfriend of mine brought over a cassette, that's how long ago it was, and put it in, and we listened to it. And I was like, oh my God, but it was great. So then I go to this party with my job, and I went to Eazy and was standing next to Dre, and I was like, you know what? I really like your music, but the lyrics are so offensive, because of course it was full of bitch and hoe and stuff. And I was like, that's so offensive, but the music's really great. I don't think I ever saw Dre again, but Eric and he ended up talking to me that night, and we eventually sort of became friendly. So that's how the thing with Jerry Heller happened. Okay, now back to the story. So in Kenya Barris' show, in Black as Fuck, in his house, not only does he have this beautiful big black painting by Knowledge Bennett, but he also has another one. It's a picture of Eazy-E. And so that one's close to my heart, which I would love to get, right? It's on like a gold background. It's like a black image of Eazy and his glasses and the Compton hat and stuff. I think that one is also by Knowledge Bennett. And so my point in saying all of that is that this show, I don't know if people are picking it up, but he's exposing us to black art, to black artists, to black thought, to black history, to some of the struggle, not only black people, but white people, to whoever's watching the show. And he's doing it in the context of this brother who's as I keep hearing people say, balling out of control in LA, he is doing it. And I don't get why people are so upset about something as superficial as how many black skinned people are on the program. Are you kidding me? Are you missing everything else? This is brilliant. And I feel like if he's smart enough to be able to get to the place where he can create that, let's give him a minute, because I feel like he's going to delve into so much more. The whole thing, he evidently, from what I read in terms of his exit with Disney, is that he had done an episode of Blackish. Kenya Barris had done an episode of Blackish where he did some commentary on Colin Kaepernick and all the stuff that was happening on that and the kneeling and everything, and Disney wouldn't air it. Too commercial, right? What will the advertisers think? And so, just so you know, in the TV business, it's all about advertising. Ad rev is everything. Ad revenue is everything. I work in TV. This is what we talk about in our production, in some of the meetings when we negotiate with the network and stuff. It's all about the money. That's where the money comes from. Like Super Bowl commercials, right? Huge money. Oh, look, that's my son and our neighbor's dog. And so Disney, I think, was probably afraid that was going to offend their bottom line. So they never aired that. And I believe at that point, Kenya, and I don't, I'm speculating to an extent, but that he was feeling a little bit constricted by that kind of thing, by his ability to really say, like, here's what I want to say. And I know that Black has touched on a lot of different issues too, that affected the Black community directly, but I think it got to a point where he just couldn't go any farther. And so that began the end of that relationship. My understanding from what I've read is that he was smart enough and savvy enough to be able to end the relationship with Disney, which is a valuable relationship. Bob Iger, and mind you, he's not just meeting with like the middle management level. He's meeting with Bob Iger, who's the CEO of Disney. You guys, this is like, the fact that he's even doing this is huge. Like, the fact who he's talking to in Hollywood in real life is huge. I don't think people understand how significant all of this is and what this man is doing. So anyway, so he went to Netflix, where he was able to just take off all the straps and the chains and release himself and do what he wants to do. And so this is his sort of like inaugural step into that direction. And I'm like, number one, he's tackling a whole bunch of subjects. How as a Black man he's feeling, how he's dealing with his wife openly, right? How he's dealing with kids are turning out. We all think that about as parents, right? If you've ever, hola Faisal, ¿cómo está? If you've ever made a decision or like spoken harshly to your child or told them, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do this, you know what that's about, right? It's not easy parenting. And have you ever like cursed at or in front of your kid? I have. And so, but most of us don't tell people. I told my son to fuck off yesterday. I didn't actually do that, but I'm saying, for example, if you did that, like, how many of us are going to really expose that, not to just your girl, not to your boy, but like for the whole world to see how your shit is not as tight as it looks when you come out and the family's all looking good and cleaned up and going to the restaurant together, or you go to your job and it looks like things are cool. He even does a scene in the show where his wife comes into the office, into the writer's room, which is like that version of China Club. China Club was awesome, right? Back in the day. He does a scene where his wife comes into the office and she's sniffing around, like, and she focuses on one of the Black writers who's a woman. Oh, hi, Michaela, I see you. And so there's that tension. And she brings the baby and, oh, I'm his wife. And he's like, I see through her. I see what she's doing. She's basically trying to pee on the tree, right? There's just so much. What else can I say about this? I left, like I said, I was writing a list at home about some things I wanted to cover. Yeah, China Club was way back, right? In the 20s, girl, back in the 20s, when the NWA was just like, what does that stand for? Yeah, I think the show is excellent. I really, really hope that, although he seems to be getting a lot of backlash from the Black community in particular, which is so disappointing. I'm like, you guys, I hope that Netflix understands what he's doing, and allows him just a long leash to go on and do it, brother, do it. And here's why the Black community in this respect, I feel like, is so disappointing. Because on the one hand, they'll be like, we're not a monolith. You can't just represent Black people by showing drug dealers or prostitutes or all that old stereotypical shit, right? Obviously, that's not who we really are, right? We're so many different people. We are me. We're a woman sitting on a beach with her son in the background playing, but I'm still a lawyer doing deals in California. Hello, that's a Black experience right there. Those of you who are out there doing whatever you're doing, that's a Black experience. Your mama, maybe you're biracial. Does that mean it's not a Black experience? I bet it is, right? That's part of the thing on the show. And so he's tackling all this stuff. Let me think of some other stuff. You guys throw me some bones. There's so much. I'm trying to think of what else. Let me just pause for a moment and remember some of the other things. Oh, drugs. There's one. He and his wife talk about doing drugs together. Right? And initially it was like, when one of our kids was a baby, we wanted to have a night out, a date night. And so the baby's with the sitter, and then, that falls apart and the sitter can't keep her. And then we're like stoned out of our minds and got to go get this baby and just all that stuff. Most parents would never talk about that, would never admit that they've been high or smoked dope or taken, Molly or whatever it is around their kids. People aren't going to say that because of the obvious judgment that comes with us. But he's like, yep, I'm telling you that too. Yep. I bet you, I saw him doing an interview with Issa Rae, like a real one, where he was talking about, because she's like, well, is it okay if I ask you this? And he's like, you can ask me anything. You can ask me about my divorce. He said divorces. I thought he was only married one time. I don't know, but divorce. You can ask me about cheating. You can ask me about drugs, whatever. that takes a whole lot of bravery, a whole lot of balls, a whole lot of being assured with yourself. He talks about that he went to therapy to work through certain things. Brilliant. You know, who here hasn't been to therapy? If you haven't, maybe you're the one who most needs to go. You know what I mean? And I like the fact that he just, to me, he's as masculine as they come. I don't feel like there's anything like soft about him. And, you know, again, I use the word soft because he used it jokingly with his son. I don't feel like softness is a bad quality in a man. I'll put it that way. Now, do you want a man who's just like, can't do anything all the time? No. But the ability to be open and vulnerable and expose that part, I think it's fantastic. So I have zero problems with what he's doing. The sun is starting to kind of get on me. I was trying to get in the shade a little bit. So let me think about what else these people are saying. Mainly, and it's, I will tell you, from the people I've looked at online, and you can go on YouTube too. Go on YouTube and do some of the searches for the black as fuck. It's a lot of dark-skinned black people complaining mainly about the colorism thing, which really made me think, wow, we have a huge divide in the black community that we need to resolve. And I think, frankly, the fact that Kenya Barris's show is bringing this up is a great thing. Now, maybe he did that on purpose because they're saying, well, how can the show be called blackAF if there aren't really dark-skinned black people in that? Well, do we have to be all dark for it to be representative of black people? I don't know. Was the name of the show a mistake? I didn't think that at all. Now, when I watched some of those other reviews, I was like, maybe, but I don't have a problem with it. But I do feel like, okay, I will pay more attention to like the cries of the dark-skinned black segment of our population who are feeling really, really offended and left out of this particular like experience. I mean, I frankly think the show is like an art form. I think it's that good that it's like art. It's really good. And frankly, because I think it's that good and it rises to the level of art, it's doing its job because it's making us do justice. It's making us have positions on it and talk about it and think about, well, what does it mean? So for me, as a fairly light-skinned, wow, not just like a one incident here and there, but like as a rule, how does the issue of colorism affect black people? I mean, it's not like I've never thought about that. Of course, I understand what that's like, but I guess I'm just shocked that, you know, the dark-skinned segment of the population that is feeling, well, I can watch Insecure, Issa Rae's show, and she's a dark-skinned black woman, you know, or chocolate, whatever, however you want to describe it. But I don't feel like I can't relate to her or that, oh, somehow, and her best friend Molly is also dark-skinned. Do I feel left out of that? No. Not at all. Do I feel like, oh, well, how come her best friend can't be light-skinned? How come she can't have straight hair? I mean, I just feel like that would be a stupid comment for me to make. You know, the Bernie Mac show, he's a dark-skinned brother. Did I feel offended? Like, well, how come his wife isn't more yellow? I mean, I'm just like, you guys, as you see, I don't even really have words for that. Like, you're missing it. I don't think Kenya Barris is colorist in the way that people are describing. Does he have a preference for light-skinned women? Maybe. Is that a bad thing? I don't find it a problem. If he had a preference for dark-skinned women, would I be offended? No. You all get to pick what you like. You like a woman with big tits, you like a man with whatever. You get to choose who you like in life. You know, did he pick his wife because of how she looks? Or did they just click their personalities and they loved each other? You know, I don't know. But so I didn't have a problem with it. Because the reason I don't have a problem with it as being colorist is because I don't get the sense that he is attempting to like wipe out that entire segment of our black people's population. Excuse me, hang on. Ice water. Hey, Cigar Talk. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, I don't get the feeling that he is intentionally ignoring or like demeaning black-skinned dark people, dark-skinned black people, by not having them highlighted right off the bat. I don't think that's the case. I think he's just saying, hey, this is what my family looks like. I'm talking about my family. Black people he talks to? Yeah. I mean, I don't see why not, because that's representative of life. I also like the fact that he's already, so for example, he's got an issue with Tyler Perry in there, and Tyler Perry, you know, and where he goes questioning his own kind of, Kenya goes questioning his sort of, I don't know if I call it relatability, but his art form. Hey, we are talking about the Netflix show Black AF, Black as Fuck, right, by Kenya Barris. And specifically the commentary that a lot of people are giving it, which is, I find to be very, very negative reviews, especially from the Black community. It seems to be either you hate it for these very reasons or you like it. I like it too. I think it's a great show. I think it's great because it's pushing us in all these tender areas, and it's showing, hey, you know what, Black people, we got some work to do. Okay, and I've heard some Black people say, oh, it must be that he wrote the show. You hate it. Tell me why you hate it. I want to hear. He did the show just to make white people feel comfortable. I don't think so. I mean, the other comment I made earlier about there being white writers on the show, that he may not have had control over that. You guys have to understand that, you know, you give somebody $100 million, you may want to have a little bit of say in what they're doing too. But do I think that they're going to be able to, or that their objective at Netflix was to muzzle him? No, in fact, it seems to be the exact opposite. That's the whole point, is that now he gets to go and say, hey, here's what I really want to say. Give it a minute. He's already had Lena Waithe on the show, who's a Black queer writer, or queer Black woman, lesbian, and she identifies, I've heard her say about herself, she's a Black, I think it's called like masculine identifying lesbian, so she's definitely more of like the butch type. She's clearly recognized as a friend of his on the show, as I'm sure she is in real life. She's done, you know, Queen and Slim. She's a very well-known and successful writer in Hollywood right now. What else? Will Packer. So he has like a one episode where he's talking with some other Black writers in Hollywood about, you know, is it okay to critique Black art? I'm a Black person. Should I just support it just because it's Black? Or is it okay to say I don't like it? Which I think is perfectly interesting given the commentary that's happening now on his show, on the Black as Fuck show. And he has, so Lena Waithe, he's got, okay, you're nothing entertaining about it. Well, that's fine. Listen, we're all entitled to our views. And so I am just a huge advocate. I love the show because I think he's doing so much. So he's showing Lena Waithe, he's showing Will Packer and Tim Story, who are two very successful Black producers, writers in Hollywood, Ava DuVernay and Issa Rae. And so right there is a spectrum of people, you know, like physically and how they identify. I don't get the sense he has any disrespect for women in terms of what they can offer professionally. He says specifically about his wife, oh, he loves the fact that she's a go-getter, he calls her, and that, you know, she was the hard worker and a hustler and stuff. What don't you like about it, Cigar Talk? Tell me what you don't like about it. First of all, are you a Black man? Are you a Latino man? I'm assuming you're a man because of Cigar Talk and your little icon. I think it's a man in there. But I'd love to know, like, you can just give me a little snippet if you don't mind about what is it that you don't like about the show. I've also heard people say they don't think it's funny. And I mean, I wasn't like keeling over laughing all the time, but I definitely did laugh at some of the stuff. And not only did I laugh, I was like, yep, at some of it. And I don't know that it's meant to be oh, hey, Ranji. Oh, okay. I don't know that it's meant to be like laugh out loud funny from the gate. Maybe he means it to be that way. And if so, sure, maybe there could be some more comedic writing if we're all intended to just laugh really hard. I don't think the show was really meant, I don't think it's intended to come across that way. I think it's certainly intended to be provocative, to be thought-provoking, to make us consider how we relate to one another. Do we consider that he's not a Black enough man because his wife is not Black enough? All that kind of stuff. A lot of those kinds of things. Is it okay to show that I have discord with my wife, yet we are super successful? Is it okay to show that my kids have these issues, yet they have every privilege in the world? Is it okay for me as a man to question my own sense of like masculinity and like strength in this world, even though I'm he's a multi-millionaire and all that stuff? Really, and money is not, one thing I like about him too is that I really don't feel like he's super motivated by the money, which is great, means like he's not lost his soul in all of this, which so many people do. You know, you get, whether it's Hollywood or any industry, you make a certain amount of money and people suddenly just lose it, right? You've heard the saying, like, if you have a lot of money, it just brings out more of who you really are. So if you're a really nice person, you can just be nicer with a lot of money. You can help a lot of people and do other kinds of really cool things. If you're an asshole, you're just going to show more of those kinds of tendencies. And I feel like he's not in it. I mean, sure, does he like having a lot of money? Who wouldn't, right? Because it just provides all kinds of access and experiences, like the whole private jet thing. I mean, if I could rent a private jet and do something like that, would I? Absolutely. And I bet a lot of you would like to be on the plane with me because we're going to have a good time. But is that the overriding reason? Why? Because I just want to like have stuff? No, it's to give myself a certain level of living, but it's also to allow other people to benefit from what I have. And I think that's what he's doing. And I say this because I've watched now a number of interviews with him, just Kenya Barris, the man, to hear like, what does he have to say? And I'm not hearing any cracks that reveal to me like, oh, okay, he's kind of caught up in himself. And understand, he may be arrogant, but like, I don't feel like his arrogance is out of control. Exactly, jet setting sounds awesome, right? So I'm not mad at him for doing that. And in terms of arrogance, there's certain people, you see and they're arrogant, and they're just like really distasteful, like you don't want to be around them. They are clearly full of themselves, and it's like, ugh, get over yourself, right? They're just all about them. I don't see him in that way. If I were to say he's arrogant, I would qualify it by saying, he just knows he's bad. Oh, roll the tape. Thank you so much. What's up? Nice. I'm glad to hear you're with us. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I don't think he is caught up in himself to the extent that he feels like, as they say, his shit don't stink. I don't think so. I think he's very confident. I think he's very bold. He has a proven track record of being able to create content that viewers like. Well, that's why I'm out here, the internet. Yeah, someone says, turned out there is the internet in heaven. Well, I'm outside by a tower. I happen to know that this particular beach will give me a clear stream. I don't know what the deal is with my house. Maybe it's haunted, but anyway, it's a nice chance for me to get out of the house during quarantine anyway. And I think in some ways to be really successful, you kind of have to be hardcore. So here's an example. I myself, I feel like I'm really, really nice, and sometimes maybe too nice and too easy. And I mean, I'm not a doormat for sure, but I feel like there's times that maybe if I pushed back more, I would have gotten more traction in a certain situation. And absolutely, as a black man in Hollywood, nobody's gonna just give you anything. It's not gonna happen. You've gotta prove yourself. You know how it is as a black person, prove yourself and prove yourself. He's a family man. Right, love his family. He seems to be really devoted to his wife. Now, has he cheated on her? You ask yourselves, a 20-year marriage, chances are, right? But I'm not really concerned with that, frankly. That's between them, and how that got handled, I don't know. Has he learned some lessons in life? I'm sure he has. But I've seen him, like, for example, with interviews with him taking his kids to the Golden Globes, and he and his wife all hugged up. Look at his Instagram page. He and his wife hugged up at different events and all this kind of stuff. I mean, he seems like a really decent, kind person. You can get a haircut and, oh God, Atlanta's opened up. Well, careful. I don't know. My hair's, this is my hair. This is what my hair is like, okay? It's just out and, I'll get it taken care of. Whatever. I don't really care. I got more important things to do than that. Although sometimes I sit at home and I do wonder, like, what the hell is going on with my hair? So I like the show, you guys. I think the show is really good. Do I think, like, for example, and the other thing people say, what is he doing trying to act as his own character? He's a terrible actor. I feel like, thank you so much for that. That's sweet, that compliment. I appreciate that. I don't have a problem with his acting because I feel like he's being himself. And so, Anthony Anderson for Blackish, this show is about him representing much more about, who his family is, the family dynamics anyway. And I'm sure some of it is dramatized. I'm sure some of it is fictionalized to an extent. But it seems to me that he is really, really, really going in for, these are the conversations I have. This is what it sounds like when I bicker with my wife. This is the way I deal with my kids sometimes. It's not the best, but this is the real reality of it. These are the questions I have about a man at this level of success. I mean, who are his peers? Think about that. Who is he going to talk about that with? Sure, there's the guys in Hollywood, like the Will Smiths, the Eddie Murphys, the writers I've talked about, that he can kind of bounce that off of. But that's a very, very, very small segment of the population, of that particular professional population. He's already shared with us that his family can't really relate from the standpoint of being super successful in Hollywood. Real brother. Are you talking to me or are you talking about? Of course they will give him what he wants as long as he's making them money. Business. Okay, I'm not hating on the man, but I'm not feeling it yet. Well, here's the thing. As long as he's making him what they want, I'm not so sure that he's doing this to make content for anybody else. I'm not sure that he's doing that. In fact, that's exactly not what he said. he said that Netflix has basically given him free reign to do what he wants to do. Now, that being said, am also questioning, is he wants? You know, maybe again, and I'm speculating, I have no idea how many white writers or black writers or Asian writers are on the show, women, men, I don't know. But I've heard people say that the actual writer's room for that show contains a significant number of white writers. Is that problematic? I mean, I'd like to see or believe that on a show, you know, where you're really focusing on those kinds of issues, that you have at least a quorum, you know, a majority or a significant influence of black voices to help inform that show. Look, you know, was it a matter of that he couldn't find black writers that he really, not that they're not qualified, I don't want to say that, I can't find any qualified people, I don't mean that, but people that maybe saw his vision. Could it be that there are people who just weren't professional, don't show up on time? Like, I don't know. And I'm not saying like black people don't do that. I'm not trying to, you know, suggest that any segment of any population is one way. Could it be that there's these white writers who are just awesome writers? Maybe. Could it be, again, that Netflix said, okay, well, you know, this is someone who, you know, contractually we have to put in here? I don't know. I think even with all of those constraints, however the writer's room is set up, I think the show's been delivered really well. Could it be funnier in a sense? I guess. There could be more like jokey jokes. I think the humor is very dry, very subtle in some ways. Definitely a lot of sarcasm. I think it's a smart show. So it's not, I think a lot of people who are looking for like the yuckity yuck yuck, like the easy jokes, they're not gonna, it's not, I don't wanna say it's not for them, but they're not gonna get some of this stuff. Can't believe what you hear about the writer sending love. Hey, Nicole! Oh, see, it's my neighbor. Goes to you guys. I have a neighbor now who is a viewer. She's a subscriber, and she wrote to me a few months ago. Nicole, I'm shouting you out now. She wrote to me a few months back, like, "Hey, thinking about moving down to Las Serenas, and this is their dog we have at the beach, by the way." And she's like, "We're gonna move there, and I'd love to meet you if we can." I was like, "Yeah, come down." So I got to meet her mom, her husband, their beautiful baby, and their dog. And then recently she wrote and she's like, "Hey, I don't know if you know, but we're looking for a place to stay, and like maybe you happen to have an idea of a place." And I was like, "Yeah." And I introduced them to a place. They actually have to be my neighbors now. I don't know if it's quite the right spot for them, but it's just beautiful that I get to, like, through this medium, actually get to interact with some of you guys. Like the other viewer, Rob, who came down and was looking for houses, and I took him on a house tour. It was really cool to get to meet him. So I love it. And there are those of you, I know there's a couple people out there who are waiting on me to give you back some feedback in terms of some commercial properties. I have my feelers out, I'm doing some work, so hold on, I'm gonna get back to you. But that's what's interesting about this thing called the media, right? Is that we are, like, on a lesser scale, I'm revealing myself to you just like Kenya Barris is revealing himself to you. Now, and there's judgment. I certainly have had feedback from people who are like, I don't like what you said about this. Like, for example, the prostitution video. Some people were like, "What are you doing? I just want to see beaches and talk about the good life and have this fantasy perception of giving those women a voice." Okay, hold on. The people that say that Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock aren't black comedians. Everyone is not the same. Right, funny. Just like attraction comes in multiple, I lost it. I lost the rest of that comment. But yes, there is not just one type of black experience. There's not just one type of black comic. I'm so California. I am. I'm a Cali girl through and through. Totally. Oh my God. No. Just because you have this type of skin or this type of hair or these type of features, does that make you more black or less black than somebody else? Do I feel less black than perhaps a really dark-skinned black sister who could be sitting here next to me who looks very different? Or a black-skinned girl with really fine features and straighter hair than mine? Like, you guys, come on. I don't think that's a valid criticism for the show. I don't, because I feel like that's, whereas on the one hand, black people will be like, well, we're not monolithic and we don't want to be portrayed as just drug dealers and pimps and everything. Okay, well, do we also just have to be portrayed as, like, show? The hell is that? I mean, that makes no sense to me. I understand how, a segment of the population can feel marginalized in a way because they're not immediately seeing someone who looks like them on the show. But on the other hand, I can't see that because there's plenty of shows where there are representations of, like, dark-skinned black people. I don't see necessarily, or for a long time, didn't see people who looked like me on shows, but does that mean I didn't like the show? No. you know, there's shows I watch where I have no relation to the characters, but I thought it was a great show. Like people, I never actually watched The Wire. People are like, oh my God, The Wire is the best show ever. I just didn't have an interest in watching it because to me, again, I didn't watch it, so I can't say for sure, but the whole thing about like drug dealers and hard times and grit and all that, I was like, I feel like I didn't want to feel that feeling. But does that mean that I could not have watched the show and enjoy it because it was a fantastically done show? I don't have to have come from a drug life to appreciate that. That's like, okay, there's a show Sons of Anarchy that was on for a while. Nothing to do with me at all. White bikers, right? And their whole crazy drug violent world. I have nothing to do with that world at all, but I thought it was a great show, right? Curb Your Enthusiasm, totally shot from the Jewish point of view and a lot of Jewish humor. But, my background, yeah, welcome. So, okay, so first of all, I'm going to answer the questions about is it safe to be outside? I'll get to that. But my point about Curb Your Enthusiasm is that I'm not Jewish. You know, I don't have like connections to the Jewish world in that way. You know, I mean, I able to stand exactly in the footprints or stand in the shoes of that exact person to be able to find like there's value in the show that you can relate to the show. If it's funny, it's fucking funny. I don't care. The background, it's beautiful, right? Is it safe to be outside? Yes, I believe so. So just so you know, as you can see, there's no one on the beach. I do have a mask with me. I brought my mask. Where did I put it? I put it away because I didn't want to get sandy. But I mean, so I have those kinds of things here. Like, hang on, let me show you so you know. They are recommending, like any place else, if we wear a mask. Here's my mask. It has a little breathe hole here. This thing is awful. It's so stifling, right? Horrible. But I brought it because, you know, I followed the rules. The deal is that you're allowed to be on the beach, you know, take walks on the beach, go for a run, exercise, what have you. Again, not in groups. You know, they're kind of saying like don't go in the water, but what I heard like on the reel is that like because if people go in the water, it's going to be a bunch of people getting in the water because we all want to get in the water. Have I gotten in the water? Yep, sure have. Not on this beach because this beach is way too public. When I do it, I have a little secluded spot that I go to. I know a little motorcycle cop down here who's secretly on the reel. He was like, well, let me know when you go because I'll come with you. And I was like, no boy, that's not what we're doing here. But so, yeah, you can get in the water, but is it sanctioned to go like hang out at the beach? No, right? We're also, the Dominican Republic is under a curfew, where it started out just like quarantine, like stay in your house, only come out for essential stuff. And then it went into like a curfew, just so you know, do a quick little thing on this. From 8 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, you may not be out of your house. They will give you a fine, take you to jail, whatever. Then they raised the curfew till 5 o'clock. So now it's like maybe 2 something. I don't know. Wrap this up. Yeah, the locals are very friendly with me. I do get flirts, and I flirt back. You know, I'm friendly, but you know, I let things stay where they need to stay. So that's what that is. So we do have a curfew in place till the end of the month. My sense is it's probably going to be extended through May until we know kind of what's going on. I get reports from the State Department, and they tell us like how many cases, how many deaths. I don't get too caught up in that because again, I don't like to do the super negative thing. But I come out, sometimes I enjoy like an essential thing. It's essential to get out of my house and feel some fresh air and put my feet on the earth and let my child come out and run and play and walk a dog and be fucking normal sometimes. So there's that. Now, back to the show. Yeah, I don't really... Listen, I can appreciate if people say I didn't think it was funny. That's fine. We all find different things funny. I appreciate, for example, smart humor more than just like cussing humor, or like, you know, a lot of like black comedians will do the black people like this and white people like that, the constant compare, or like there's the one white person in the club who's come to see them, they zero in and make them feel really uncomfortable. I don't, you know, I'm like, give me something that's actually like stimulates my mind and makes me think and makes me go, oh, like, you know, stuff that happens to us all that it, like Richard Pryor or even Jerry Seinfeld I think is funny, and Chris Rock, and a lot of those guys. Dave Chappelle I think is brilliant because they tell jokes that are relevant to us as people. I mean, some of them definitely come from a black perspective, you know, meaning things that black people specifically really can relate to because of whatever may have happened to us, or things, the way that we grew up, things like that. But so I'm not, Chris does do a lot of race jokes, and some of them I think are funny, some of them I'm like, whatever. Here's another one, Cat Williams. I think Cat Williams is hysterical And he's like pimped out looking, right? So I don't relate to that at all. But he's very smart. If you listen to Cat Williams, he's brilliant. I love the stuff, and again, not that every single word that comes out of his mouth or Chris Rock's mouth or Eddie Murphy's mouth or anybody's, the way they're delivering their art to us. And I consider it art just because, we can all sit around and talk about, let's say, police brutality, right? But can we all sit around and talk about it in a way that'll make us be really reflective or laugh even, or put it in a scene that makes you have a dialogue with it, about it with somebody, like with a white person, in a way that it makes it, palatable to talk about it. I don't know, there's just so many different ways of bringing things up. And so I have a lot of respect for people who are able to create content, whether it's comedy or writing or painting or whatever it is, that makes you be able to think about it from different perspectives. So I'm here for the show. I can't wait. I'm like, more episodes. I've watched all 8 episodes twice. I'll probably watch them again. I love it. It's not easy. Maybe it may be easy from the standpoint that some people are good writers, like better writers than others. Like some people are good at math. It may be easy from that standpoint, but it's not necessarily easy to write something. You think that Kevin Hart is overrated? You do? Yeah. It's funny because initially I was like, okay, so again, he does a lot of jokes about his size. He's really, really tiny. Because I looked into it after a while. I was like, oh, he is really short, right? There's a lot of jokes about that. Some of his humor I think is funny, but I don't like laugh out loud at Kevin Hart. Eddie Murphy is brilliant. Eddie Murphy's another person I met back in the day, had a friendship with him, and I got to know him a little bit and realize he's very, very smart, right? And he may not bring, like, all of his characters may not be like, showing you the depth of that. But he is, look at his career, whatever you think about him, that man's had a hell of a career and still going, right? And, has he had a misstep or two? Sure. Who doesn't, though? And I'm like, you guys, I don't know, I think we just judge too harshly. It doesn't mean that you have to like it. It doesn't mean that you have to love the show and you have to think everything, whether it's Kenya Barris or Eddie or Chris Rock or pick, white writer, producer, or Asian writer, producer, whoever. It doesn't mean you have to like their stuff. But I just respect it from the standpoint that, one, he's ballsy enough to put it out there and take it, knowing, again, that it's going to cause controversy. I'm sure he knew. Of course, a man that smart who's had that kind of success at network television where he knows what the constraints are and what you can and can't say, of course he knew that it was going to cause some dialogue. And frankly, I think that's brilliant too. It's like, look, it's making us all talk about it and take sides, not so much like to be against one another, but to just have opinions and to share, well, here's why I think it matters if there's a dark-skinned person represented or not. Here's why I think it matters whether it's okay to say curse words in front of your kids. Here's why it's okay to expose this stuff. Oh my gosh, we're saying it in front of white people. Now they're going to know how we feel. I'm okay with all of that. So I think the show, I'm curious to see how the writing develops. I'm really curious to see what happens with the characters who are in the show. Like, what's going to happen? Will he decide, I need to be more conscientious about how I'm behaving around my family? Do I need to be more loving toward my wife? Do I need to divorce my wife? Do I need to not care about how I'm perceived in white society or in white Hollywood? Concerned about any of those kinds of things. Come, you want to be on camera? Look, this is Miles the doggy. Look, say hello. There he is. Oh, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. Oh, I have a white dog with me. Does that mean I don't like black people? Because it's a white dog? Honestly, you guys, sometimes I feel like, hi, baby. Sometimes I feel like the white-black thing just gets carried away too much. And trust me, I understand that we have a lot of trauma still collectively as black people. I completely get that, right? I see it myself sometimes and how I relate to certain things. I see it in different black communities. I see it here in the Dominican Republic. I see, how we are still the legacy of slavery, because I tend to think of legacy as like a positive thing, but the residual effects, okay? I like how in the show, for example, I don't know if it's in every episode, in several of them, there'll be like a break where things get like some historical photographs and facts and things will be woven into this, whatever the story is he's telling in that episode, to either make us remember, to inform people who may not know, to make us think, ooh, maybe to poke us a little bit and make us feel uncomfortable with it, you know? I don't think that shows are always just meant to entertain for the sake of like getting a good laugh or seeing your favorite person online. I think sometimes it's meant to stir it up, right? And to really make you think about, well, wait a second, what does it mean to be black? What does to be black mean, right? What does that really mean? What is being black? Can anybody define that? Can a black person define that? There is no like, it's like saying, what does it mean to be a woman? Or what does it mean to be a man? My version of womanhood is very different from someone else's version of womanhood. But does that make it, for example, Lena Waithe, right? Or like a butch type lesbian. She's a woman. That's womanhood, right? She has a vagina, she has a uterus, she has breasts, she has whatever. I mean, she is biologically a woman, as am I. But is our experience of womanhood the same? Totally different. And even if we don't go to extremes of like gay and not gay, gay and straight, we'd have 2 straight men, 2 straight black men, 2 straight dark-skinned black men. Is their experience as a black man the same? Of course not. Because not only may they have had different backgrounds, one comes from this type of experience or that type of family structure, but just who they are as human beings means they're automatically going to see some things differently. Now, will they have commonalities? Sure, they may, but do you define that their blackness, their maleness on the commonalities? Do you define it based upon their individual feelings? You know, I don't think there's any, again, I feel like people are, I don't know if I want to call them being too sensitive or too impatient or too shallow, but to say, oh, well, how can the show be called Black as Fuck when there aren't even any dark-skinned people on there? I'm like, oh my God, you guys. Okay, so that's what it means? So, okay, so if I staff my put a whole show together with all dark-skinned black people, I call it Black as Fuck. That means it's an appropriately titled show. Really? Okay. They got to dig a little deeper for me on that. I have a problem. She looks like she's biracial too. I hear the noise. Okay, like that's why I started out this live stream saying, here's who I am. Here's the background I'm coming from, right? This kind of parent, that kind of parent, my grandparents, you know, where I come from, some privilege, whatever. But does that make my black experience different from a black person's experience who comes out of hardship and, you know, drug addiction or those kinds of things? Is that blacker because it's harder? I don't think so. You know, and for that matter, there are black professionals who are also drug addicted. There are black professionals who've also been to prison. There are white professionals who are drug addicted. But I mean, please, really, you want to talk about white collar crime? That's where, I can tell you in all the private schools I went to, honestly, that's where the drugs came from, was the white kids. Those are the ones who were cussing their parents out, was the white kids. Now, do I have a feeling about how Kenya Barris on his show and maybe in his real life talks to his kids going, you're a dick, or that's fucked up, or those kinds of things? Do I think that's a bad thing? You know, would I choose to do it? My son's heard me cuss, and I used to like, you know, really kind of tame it. And I don't have like a super potty mouth, but I do use cuss words, right? You guys have heard it, and I say these things. But do I feel like, so number one, would I do that same kind of thing? I don't like just blaspheme all over the house. I'm not just like, I don't have like a household laced with profanity. That's not how I run my ship. But nor does my son not know that his mother curses. He's heard it. I was on a business call the other day where I was amped about some stuff, and I was like, yeah, and this, and that, I'm gonna do this. And the person I was talking to, it's a business relationship, but it's also a very kind of casual relationship. So we can talk to each other in that kind of way. And I used a lot of profanity because we were dealing with a particular issue that was a little bit difficult. We were like, we were trying to deal with it. And so I said a lot of stuff using profanity. And my son heard me. And when I got the phone, I was like, sorry. He's like, oh, it's okay, Mom. I said, you know, your mom talks like that sometimes. He goes, I know. And that's it. Does he use profanity? My son's a little bit of a nerd. Not like in a bad way, but like he's like a really good boy. I don't have to worry about him. I don't worry about like, oh God, I got to monitor everything he looks at online because if not, he's going to be looking at porn. Like, no. Has he come to me sometimes and said, Mom, one time he mentioned something about, I think he said he saw something online, they used the word cum, like C-U-M. And I was like, oh, okay. My first question is, what are you watching, right? And I don't know if it's TikTok or something. But I talked to him. I said, well, that's a colloquial term. That's like not the real term, but what it means is when a man ejaculates. And I went through the whole thing. So I talked to him about real stuff. I've talked to him about drugs. I've talked to him about this is what marijuana looks like. This is what cocaine looks like. This is what, when you do these drugs, these are the reactions that people tend to have. So I have a very open kind of relationship with my son. Am I smoking a joint with my son? I'm absolutely not. He asked me though one day, he's like, would you be mad at me if I ever smoked weed? And I was like, I don't think I'd be mad at you. I mean, obviously he's 10, so no, but like I think he even said like when I'm 18, and my answer was like, no, I'm not gonna be mad at you, but one thing I want you to do is be careful, like know who you're with. Make sure that if you decide to smoke weed with your friends one day, like you come to the beach or you're hanging out or whatever, make sure you're safe, meaning you're not doing anything stupid, and gonna like go, hey, let's jump off the building, or let's steal something now. Ha, we got high, let's go steal something. You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure you're in an environment where you can afford to take that kind of a chance. So again, I'm coming at parenthood and adulthood and being a woman and being a mother from a different standpoint than many other people are. I had a conversation with a friend of mine, another single mom. She has a daughter though. And we were talking about like sexuality with our kids. And I think she found her daughter like watching some kind of provocative shows. Even though I think the shows were supposedly targeted at kids, the content was really much more kind of adult in terms of some of the sexuality themes that were coming up. And she was a little bit horrified and afraid about, well, how do I deal with this and everything. And I, again, I have a son and maybe that's different. And I didn't feel like it was like, oh no, this means doom, like your daughter's about to turn out pregnant kind of thing. And so I think as parents, we have to make very individual decisions about who we know our children to be. And so how junk food, and I know eventually they're going to they're going to eventually gravitate on their own toward eating healthy foods. And others of us would go, no, I have to force them to eat, make sure that every meal they have something healthy, something green, something, what I'm saying? There's just a spectrum. But I believe that if you have your own best interests, your child's best interests, your family's best interests, at heart, you're going to, in a cumulative way, do the best that you can do for all of you. So I have maybe more of a holistic approach to parenting and look at my career. Some people would be like, Kelly, you just threw your career in the toilet by leaving the country and daring to think that you could conduct business. I do. And I created another business. I mean, I don't know if I call YouTube really a business, but this is something that it's much more now than it was when I first started, when I was just sitting in my car looking all tired, talking about, well, 7 more days, we're moving to the DR, and I had no idea what I was doing. And now I have a little bit more of a sense of like, okay, this is how you should put it together. Like, I care about the fact that my live streams have sucked lately because the quality is terrible, and for no matter what is going on, the transmission in my house is terrible. I want to give the viewers a good experience. And so I am involved more with it from that standpoint. I do care more about the content of what I'm offering you guys. I want it to be something that's enjoyable, and like today, I feel like I had a really interesting subject. I had to talk about this. Sometimes I hop on and I'm like, I don't have a lot to say. And then I'm like, why did you even get on if you have, I don't just want to waste people's time, especially now that there's so much indoor time we're all spending. If you're going to come to my channel and bless me with your time, which is a huge resource, time, I'd like to offer you something good. So anyway, that's enough about me. I think I've made my point about the show. If you haven't watched #BlackAF on Netflix, I highly, highly recommend that you watch it. If you have watched it and you love it, great, we're on the same page. If you watch it and you don't like it, look, that's your prerogative. If you're like, I'm never gonna watch it again, it sucks, and I'm done with him, that's cool. But if you're kind of like, well, I didn't like this or I didn't like that, I would say, you know what, give it a chance. Let's see what the brother does with this. Maybe there's a reason that he's starting out this way. I guarantee you he didn't just write 8 episodes and go, well, I don't know what I'm gonna say next, I'm just done with that, I'll just make it up, on the fly. Pretty sure he's thought through the story arc. And I don't know a lot about this. I want to learn more about those kinds of things, like in terms of like how you write and everything. I'd like to do some writing myself, hint, hint, about some of the things I'd like to share. But I'm sure he's got more to deliver to us. I mean, think about the material he's got. He's got himself, his career, his backstory, his family, where he comes from. Yeah, I grew up in San Francisco, in the Richmond district. his marital relationship, whatever comes from that, if he's going to tackle cheating, as he's mentioned, has happened before. And who did it? Was it both of them? Was it as a result, one did it because of the other one? Like, what's up? The power play between who earns the money in the relationship, that's totally a universal thing that happens with couples. I had that situation in a relationship that I was in, and I was the breadwinner for sure. And I believe I was looked at as like, okay, well, you're the lawyer, you go out there. And I had, a couple of jobs, and, I remember coming home and homeboy would be on my sofa, playing video games with his brother. And I was like, excuse me? What is that? And I had a big belly pregnant, so that's another story for another time. But those are real issues. So he's got all the different kids, what their trajectories are gonna be. Who knows who else is gonna come in, as far as like friends, or who knows what the show is going to show us. But I feel like, let's see what happens. He's just getting into it. Whether it's going to be, become funnier, and like we think of like actual, I don't know about traditional comedy, but like things that make us really laugh, like it's intended to be so funny, or if it's funny just because of what we're seeing, like some of the humanity that comes out of it, some of the ridiculous stuff that he's having to deal with, some of the challenges that are laughable, some of this, there's just so much. I think there's just so much content there to mine. Okay, here's another comment that I've heard people say, critique. Oh my God, it's the same thing as Blackish. It's just Blackish with profanity. Oh my God, her backstory. Grownish is his daughter who went to college. Is there anything else he can do? Come on, you keep on playing the same old note. Give us something different. All right, well, I've only seen Blackish, and I haven't seen Mixedish or Grownish, so I can't comment on those specifically. But that idea, I feel like, look, if it's working, and these are hit shows, which apparently they are, Andrew, watch him, baby, because he sees the other doggy, so make sure he doesn't run off. Okay? He is so good, though. He's not even going. And pour some more water in his thing. Does he need more water? Okay. You might also want to move the chair into the shade so both of you guys can not be too hot. Okay. That's called spin-offs, right? And so, remember Cheers? Cheers had the Frasier spin-off. Did it have other ones? I don't know, but that's what successful shows do. It's like singing groups, and then, one person like Diana Ross was a Supreme, and, I don't know, Michael Jackson was a Jackson 5. So if it works, why not? Now, if people say, hey, I'm tired, I don't like Mixedish because it's just not an interesting show, that's a different critique. If they say, Grownish doesn't really have anything else to tell us, it's not an interesting story, that's a different critique as well. But the fact that he has now spun off independent stories from the one collective story, which was Blackish, I don't see that was a problem. It's like, see, look at Harry Potter. Anybody complain about Harry Potter? How many damn Harry Potter novels were there? Like, oh my God. John Grisham has written 1 trillion books about being a lawyer. I can tell you, being a lawyer is not that interesting, right? To me. So I don't have a problem with that. And Black as Fuck is a little bit different from Blackish in that it's like Blackish with the wheels, the doors popped off, like he can say and do anything he wants to. Great. Let's see where he goes. We had, 6 seasons of Blackish? We've had 8 episodes of blackAF. So let's see what he does with it. I'm really curious to see. I think it's going to get good and juicy and interesting, and it might mess up. I like that thing too, though. I like the fact that there, sometimes it might hit a wrong note. Like I could go, oh my gosh, did he just call his daughter a bitch? Like, oh, that's a cringe moment. But I feel like good for him that he's willing to put that out there, and because he's going to be judged. We're all judging him, whether we like him or don't like him, or think this is okay, or his wife's not black enough, or how could he say that to his daughter? Oh my God, his kid used a cuss word. Oh, you guys, let's love on him a little bit, and let's see what happens to the show. It's a huge opportunity for a man in his position to get the kind of wide open door he's gotten. And I don't think he's going to be an irresponsible, selfish content creator. I've heard people say, oh, he's just profiteering. And even the daughter in the show says, oh, he's just profiteering off of being black. He's using his family to make money. Well, so did Joe Jackson, and so did a whole bunch of people. And so am I. I'm using myself to make money. So? Am I selling out? Am I doing something that's inappropriate by appearing in a bikini on YouTube? Am I pandering? I don't know. I'm at the beach. This is what I wear. Do people like to look at me in a bikini? Probably some do. Am I doing it for that reason? I do it because I feel comfortable. I mean, I tell you this, if I did not feel comfortable showing up in a bikini, I wouldn't do it. I do it because I feel comfortable, but I also like to look nice. I also like to offer something visually pleasing like this and me. You know, why am I gonna show up looking like a hag? Who wants to watch that, right? Am I gonna have more viewers turn in because I'm attractive? Probably, to an extent, right? Like, I mean, that's just a fact of life. Would I rather drive a funky car than a nice one? No, I'd rather drive the nice car, right? Would I rather live in a shack than a nice house? No, I would rather live in a nice house. So why is it a problem when someone does something to benefit or to receive a benefit from, you feel me? So, you know, I'm not mad at the brother. I hope to meet him together. Call me up, freeislandgirl@gmail.com. I'll talk to you. I'll write an episode with you. I'm for it. All right, you guys. I think it's time for me to take a dip, a dippy dip. So for those who do like the bikini, here's your bikini shot. Now, mind you, I haven't been to the gym lately, so be nice to a sister. But I'm gonna give you the gratuitous shot here, just because I might regret it later when I look at the playback. Like, oh my God, Kelly, did you actually show your whole self? Hang on. I had a viewer who was like, do more beach yoga, which I would like to do, but right now with the heavy duty quarantine or the heavy duty restrictions, I'm like, nah, I probably can't do that. But I'll do another one. Hang on, I'm trying to fix the mic when we get off of this restriction, okay? So here we go. Ta-da! I'm going to the beach now. Come here, Andrew. Say bye to the people. My son's in the shot. Where's the doggy? Come here, Miles. Come here. The white dog named Miles Davis. Oh my God, is it a problem? Look at him, he's so cute. He's a good boy. That's how I'm living, you guys. Okay. All right, that's it. I'm gonna drink my ice water. I'm gonna drink my ice water. I'm gonna go, I think I might actually take a dip in the water now because it's hot. And we'll see you later. All right, I hope you guys enjoy your day. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. That's awesome. And yeah, oh, and for those who asked, I will put the PayPal and the Cash App link in the community description box. Give me a couple hours because I'm gonna enjoy myself for a minute, then I'm gonna go home, and I'll do that later. But thank you always for your contribution, for your support. I do appreciate it very much, okay? Mwah, lots of love, bye. Miles, how do I hang up? Where's the hang up button? Oh my gosh. Oh, there we go. Bye guys. Love